Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into the Vibrant Health Podcast, hosted by myself, Jessica Espinoza, and my friend and colleague, Lydia Shatney. I am a wellness coach and educator whose main goal is to help inspire you to live your most vibrant life. You can find me writing about all things health and wellness over at deliciousobsessions.com and jessicaespinoza.com. Lydia is a nutritional therapist and founder of the Divine Health from the InsideOut.com website, where she works with clients all over the country and helps them improve and regain their health using nutritional and mineral balancing protocols. We are so excited that you're taking time out of your day to tune in. But before we get started, since this is a health-related podcast, it should be noted that we are not licensed medical professionals. The information and advice provided in this podcast is not intended to diagnose, treat, or prescribe for any illness or health issue and should not be construed as medical advice. You should always consult with your medical practitioner before making any changes to your diet, supplementation, medication, or lifestyle. Now, on to today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Let's get this show started. Hey everyone, welcome to episode number 39 of the Vibrant Health Podcast. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I am here with my co-host Lydia, and we are really excited to have another special guest on the show today to talk about a really important topic that is affecting every single one of us. And it's something that we really need to kind of pay some attention to because it can have some negative impacts on our health. So, hey, Lydia, do you want to say hello and introduce our guest?
Hey, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in today. We do have a pretty cool guest here today, and we're excited about today's topic. We're joined by Brian Hoyer, and Brian is a certified nutritional therapist like myself, and he is also a certified geobiologist, and he's been trained by the Geovital Academy, which is a 35-year running naturopathic clinic in Australia, and they specialize in radiation protection and environmental medicine. And he's completed these courses in advanced clinical nutrition assessment techniques, autonomic response testing with the Klinghardt Academy, levels 1, 2, and 3, and hundreds of hours of continuing education in nutrition. He currently practices in California and travels up to the coast to Washington State often. He also organizes healing and educational retreats in Hawaii, and he lives with his wife, Lindsay, and their 3 daughters. And they're currently in California, but in the process of building a shielded tiny house on wheels, and they're searching for property, which I think is so cool. And I met Brian back in March at the Nutritional Therapy Conference, and he's a pretty great guy, and I think you're going to learn a lot from him. So welcome, Brian. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm excited to share some information and hopefully help some people out there.
Definitely. I'm sure you will, because this topic is just really something we're barely tapping into, and I think there's awareness, but certainly most of us don't quite know what to do with all of this info or what to do about it, really. So today we're going to be talking about electromagnetic fields and EMFs and all the issues that come along with that. And Brian's an expert in this, so he's going to give us an introduction to EMFs. What is it?
So what are EMFs, right? So if you kind of break down the word electromagnetic frequencies, there's a whole spectrum of called the electromagnetic spectrum, and that involves everything from radio to microwaves, infrared, visible light, ultraviolet light, X-rays, gamma rays. That whole spectrum, that's all electromagnetic spectrum. But what we're talking more specifically about today is the electromagnetic radiation that comes from common technologies, like electricity in your walls, the power lines outside, the Wi-Fi and the cell phone towers and baby monitors. And there's different spectrums. There's low frequency and then there's higher frequency radiation. And this stuff is kind of just the invisible stuff that's all around us. And in recent years, there's been a lot of studying these, and they've shown that there is a biological effect from these different types of fields. And so with that information, a lot of people have become concerned about what kind of effect that has on our health long-term and what's happened to our health since these fields were introduced to the human race.
Wow. As we're sitting here talking and I'm on my phone and I have my computer, I'm kind of wondering, do you have a different setup than I do?
Well, yeah, I have these phone cases that my wife makes, and I'm using one of them right now. So it kind of blocks the radiation from the phone away from me.
Yeah, I need to get on that. All right, cool. Well, So let's talk more about the health effects because, there is definitely more research coming out with it, and it's actually pretty fascinating, and it reaches farther than we could have ever imagined. So let's get into some of that so people can understand how it could be impacting them.
Okay. Yeah, well, to understand the health effects, you kind of have to understand a little bit about the human body and from the cellular level, especially with minerals, which you guys I know have talked a lot about minerals on your podcast. So, but there's a charge in every single mineral in all of our cells. And so if you take something like sodium and potassium, they have a positive charge. And as they travel across the cell membrane, which they always are doing, it creates a current that's about 100 millivolts, and that changes the cell's voltage. And so these voltage changes are happening in every single cell of your body billions and trillions of times every day. And the body has a certain voltage that it's supposed to have, and these fields have basically been interfering with these and causing unpredictable consequences, and we're just now discovering them the last 30 or 40 years. And it's pretty obvious that just like a lot of the other industries that make a lot of money from different technology, like with GMOs and the big food industry and everything, that there's a lot of money to be made in the telecommunications industry. And even more so, that I think it's like something like $1.2 trillion a year, and it's bigger than big pharma, than the pharmaceutical industry. So it's in their best interest to kind of keep the information on the down low.
Ooh. Yeah, I would say.
So basically, all of these voltages that are going across the cell membrane, they can be interfered with by the high frequency and the low frequency radiation. So like when I go to someone's house and I do a consultation with them, I have these special instruments that actually measure the body. And so I put the meter right on the person's body, and there's different meters for different types of frequencies. So most people in their bedroom, they have about over 1,000 volts going through them when they're laying down on their bed.
Wow.
And that's from the electricity, the wiring in the walls, and it's that field is interacting with the mattress that has metal springs on their bed or their metal bed frame, and it's going right into their body and causing that high voltage. And there's also wiring in the floor and above and the lights and everything. So these affect pretty much everybody, and that's just the low field electric radiation. And then there's also higher frequencies, like from Wi-Fi and cell phone towers that penetrate walls, and those come in, and you get an average reading of 500 to 1,000 or 3,000, 8,000 I've read before millivolts. So you have a voltage from the electric fields, and then you measure millivolts on the person's body with the higher frequencies. But if you remember the 100 millivolts, that's what it takes for the cell membrane. That's what the cell membrane, charges when there's a mineral going over it. So having all this voltage going through your body when you're sleeping and even during the day has a huge effect on the cellular level, and it has kind of a domino effect on these other areas that we'll talk about. So it's huge.
It is huge. You're going to make me do something about this just by talking about this, because I haven't really gotten this piece of my life in total order yet. So, wow. Okay. So
I totally agree.
I mean, I've tapped in a little, but not enough. Mm-hmm. So honestly, collectively speaking, everybody's like overwhelmed, and it's like, well, okay, I don't need to deal with this. So I guess we need to make sure that they really understand. Do you have any research on, kind of what this is doing to our bodies collectively speaking, like what damages and what health concerns? Like if someone's got an illness, a specific illness, should they be more concerned about this? Like, should this be something that they dive into right away? Because I think that giving more specific information to reach a person where they're at could really help people take action. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. And, I've kind of gotten to the point in my practice where I'm feeling like to have the most integrity, I need to address this first with people before putting them on any nutritional protocol. it's been hard to do that because there is a lot that you need to do, and it's overwhelming for a lot of people. So I've been just kind of taking baby steps as we go with people, which I think is less overwhelming approach. But there is a solution, and once you take care of it, you really don't have to worry about it anymore. But it's just kind of taking that first step, like, okay, we have to, if we want to get healthy and we want to reach our optimal levels and heal these conditions that we have, then this is a necessary step that we have to take. And so you mentioned like a study. There's all kinds of studies. If you go on to, there's this website that was a conglomeration of researchers. It's called the Bioinitiative Report. So it's bioinitiativereport.org, I believe. But they have thousands and thousands of research that shows the effects of these types of radiation, and it has, things like sperm damage and male infertility, miscarriages, vaginal discharge, vascular system disease, tinnitus, childhood cancer, sleep problems, depression, irritability, memory loss, concentration difficulties, headaches, dizziness, fatigue, arrhythmia, heart attacks, bone marrow interference, altered calcium level in cells. That makes sense with what we talked about. Reduction in nighttime melatonin, and that's a huge issue that I want to talk about, kind of focus in on. And then there's like autism. With autism, Dr. Klinghardt, he's a guy that I studied with, and he in his practice, before he sees any, like half of his patients are autistic children, and before he deals with them, he has them take care of all of the electromagnetic radiation first, before he even meets with them for their first appointment.
Wow.
And he did a study in his own clinic with autistic children. And I think what I remember about that study was that he would go back to the home where the mom was that has the child with autism, and he would measure her sleeping area when she was pregnant with him, with the child. And every single one of the children with autism had incredible levels of electromagnetic radiation in the sleeping area where the mom was pregnant with the child. And then he tested other mothers who didn't have it, and it was like 10 to 15 to 20 times less than the moms with kids with autism. So, for me, I think the reason that this is such a huge deal is because it's connected to a leaky blood-brain barrier, and it also causes leaky gut. And there's a study in 1960 by a neuroscientist called, his name is Dr. Alan Frey with Cornell University, and his experiment was really, really interesting. He took these rats and injected blue dye into their body, into their blood, and when that happens, the whole body turns blue and fluoresces with their equipment, except for the brain, because there's the blood-brain barrier. And so he had two groups of rats, and one group, wasn't exposed to Wi-Fi, and the other group was. It was a similar technology at the time to Wi-Fi, radio frequencies. And the ones that were exposed to the radio frequencies, within a few seconds, their brains lit up with the blue dye. And so that showed that that causes leaky blood-brain barrier, and by correlation to that, you can also assume that it causes leaky gut.
Wow. Okay. Now that we're all totally depressed, what can we do about it? So, let's say, for example, you were to come, if I wanted you to, come to my bedroom to tell me what I needed to do to evaluate it for the radiation and everything, what's the most basic, straightforward way people can start looking at this on their own? I know it's probably a lot more in depth if you want to really tackle it, but what are some basics that we can do? I know we're not going to be able to avoid it all, right? It's impossible. But
right.
Just reducing it the way we can in our own homes is probably a good step. So if you can break it down a little bit, maybe. I think one of the things that's held me back from going much further with this is I don't know what exactly I need to do and how effective it is. And, there's a lot of plugins and devices and all these things you can get, but, there's no way to measure how effective they are. Do they really work, So
right.
We'd love to get some insight from you on that.
Yeah, and that's why I really love I did a lot of research on where to go to find these solutions. And that's why I love the Geovital Academy and their approach, is because they have verifiable solutions. And like you do with supplements, you get the professional supplements that doctors have used that work. Well, you do the same thing with regard to electromagnetic radiation. They're a 35-year naturopathic clinic, and they've been putting in solutions that work with people. And so, there was a time when they were doing their work over there in Austria, and they realized that their patients weren't getting better. And so they wanted to find out why. And then they realized it's because every night they would be going home to these sleeping, to their bedrooms and their homes where they had all this radiation that was going up, because cell phone towers were just starting to go up, and all the new technology and everything, the cordless phones and everything like that. So they started to address those things, and once they addressed those things, people started to get better, and they continued to develop products as the technology got worse and worse. And so it's kind of like it's very recovery focused, and I like that, and that's why I decided to kind of pursue that route with them. But yeah, there are things you can do right away, and if you think about it like from a 30,000-foot view, the goal with all of health is to kind of get back to how our ancestors ate, how our ancestors lived, but we also have to get back to the environments that our ancestors had. And so that means trying to minimize, especially at nighttime. And nighttime is the most important time to take care of these issues, because that's when your body goes into that parasympathetic healing state. Mm-hmm. And you have, I don't know if you guys have talked about this on your podcast yet, but the lymphatic system in the brain, it's when your brain basically sweeps this hormone melatonin all over the brain, and it's like a huge, potent detoxifier that kind of sweeps everything out, and then it pumps down through the back of your spine, through the lymphatic system, and out with all the fluid, and kind of, just flushes out all the toxins from your brain. And it does that at night at certain stages of sleep. And what interferes with that is a lot of the electromagnetic radiation interferes with melatonin production. So nighttime is by far the time that most people, and Geovital has found this, that if you just take care of the bedroom in the nighttime, then you don't have to worry so much about things during the day. Because as long as you give your body a chance to repair at nighttime, then you can handle it more when you're awake, and you're kind of in a more of a sympathetic state, and your body has its guard up. But when you're sleeping, your body's guard is let down, because that's when you're supposed to repair brain tissues and all the cells and tissues in your body. So at nighttime, the easiest things you can do is just turn off your Wi-Fi at night, turn off your cordless phones. I always recommend people to figure out a way to go back to hardwiring your internet and getting a corded phone again. And then as far as the bedroom goes, that stuff helps take care of the stuff in the house as far as the higher frequency radiation, the things that send information through the air. But then you also have the electric fields in your room, so there shouldn't be anything plugged into your walls. And if you do have a spring mattress, that can be an antenna for both high frequency and low frequency radiation. And so that's another thing that Geovital does, is sells natural, non-static, metal-free mattresses, for people that need a good natural mattress option. And so, once you combine that with all their other solutions, it's a really neat package that they have. But as far as just things inside the house, like I said, turning off the Wi-Fi and the cordless phones, figuring out which breakers go to your bedroom and turning those off at night can be helpful. But honestly, it's not a really safe solution, because if you had, your power off and there's some kind of emergency in the middle of the night, and, grandma and grandpa get up and no lights are on, none of the lights are working or whatever, that could be kind of a hazard. So there's different solutions that we can talk about later that you do have to spend some money, and it's kind of like a home health remodel type of thing. But there are more permanent solutions that make it so you don't have to, leave things unplugged in your bedroom. You don't have to do this. There's different solutions for that.
Okay, because I'm hearing a million questions coming, like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to sleep without my fan and my white noise and my alarm clock? And wait, I have my printer in my bedroom, and what about the lamps? And, because I'm looking around my room right now, I'm like, holy cow, I have like so many things plugged in. And I know there's a lot of understanding about keeping everything away from your head at the very least. You don't want any electric devices plugged in near your head. But so let's talk about the bedroom a little bit more, maybe, if you don't mind. So, because all that stuff, people are going to balk. So what if they took baby steps? What would your number one thing be, and then kind of list of importance? And then if they still have to have some things plugged in, what kind of hacks are there for that? And then I have a mattress. It's not spring. It's a Tempur-Pedic, but it's got a metal frame. So, how much of all this matters? Let's get some nitty-gritty details about this, because I know people are going to have these kinds of questions.
Yeah. So let's just focus in on the electricity in the walls, the electric fields, okay?
Okay.
That's one type of radiation. So we'll talk about that first. And then, we already kind of talked a little bit about the higher frequency radiation, which is like the cell phone towers and the Wi-Fi and the information transmitting electromagnetic radiation waves. So we'll just talk about the electric fields. So, anything that's plugged into your wall has electric fields that are going through the cord and into, like, say, a lamp. And that field goes out from that lamp like 2 or 3 feet. And if that field matches if that field enters into your body anywhere, then you're in that field. And your body is basically like a big piece of metal as well, because we're conductive.
Ooh.
So basically, what you're doing is, like, I go into someone's bedroom, I measure their body, and their body has to be below a certain voltage for me to say, okay, we're finally at where we want to be. So it's really hard to say, like, you can just do this or you can just do that without taking a measurement.
Sure.
But generally speaking, you want to have the electricity in the walls cut off or grounded. And so the solution that we have with Geovital is we have a shielding paint that has a dual purpose, okay? So it blocks the electric fields from the walls, and it's by having a grounding strip laid all the way around your entire room on the baseboard, and it goes into the ground in your electrical outlet that you have an electrician install or whatever. And then the paint is like a graphite-based paint that you coat on the wall, and then you have the grounding strip laid down, then you put another coat on so it's sealed, and then you can put over that whatever color paint you want. So then your whole room is protected from the electric fields in your wall, and it should be a pretty good solution. Now, even with that, if you plug something into the wall, you're bringing electric fields back in to the room. So ideally what you want is a situation where things are either unplugged or you install a circuit, what they call a circuit cutoff switch or a demand switch, where the electricity is only going to your lamp when it's turned on, and it kind of sends a request for electricity when you flip the switch to turn it on. And so that keeps the electricity from entering to the room even when you have something plugged in. That way you don't have to keep unplugging and plugging stuff all the time. So that's kind of a more permanent solution. And if you can't afford that solution, then it's more just turn off the breakers, keep things unplugged. And a lot of times there's more than one switch to a room. There's wires that are crossing, so that's why the testing is really important. There's more than one breaker switch that is affecting the bedroom, because there's wires that are going across your room, maybe to another room that are live, that are on a different circuit,
Wow. Okay, so the biggest thing to think about is the electricity in the walls and everything you just stated. So if people can't take that step right away, will it help to do some of obviously if anybody can unplug everything, right? That's easy enough, at least to start. And then what other items in the bedroom can they take action on? What about their bed? Is there anything they can do to protect their bed if they can't buy a new bed?
The bed, there's a lot of people that use these grounding mats. I don't think those are helpful to sleep on, to have your body in straight contact with. It's kind of like a crapshoot on whether it's going to work or not to have it underneath your bed. But I think that you'd have to take a measurement. But I've seen it where, like, if you do have a grounding sheet, it would be smart to just put it on the back side of your wall on your bed rather than have it cover you. That might work as a way to help. But honestly, like, other than unplugging things, and there's really not much that you can do unless you want to spend a little bit of money to do it right and do it permanently right. So you don't have to worry about it, and you don't have to really change your lifestyle that much with plugging and unplugging things all the time, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I really like the Geovital solutions, is they have ways that you can just take care of it all at once and not have to worry about it and not have to unplug and plug everything in and kind of make it change your life dramatically from what it used to be, and just add one more thing on the to-do list every single day for the routine, you know?
Mm-hmm. So if someone wanted to do all of that process, where would they look to get that done? On the Geovital website, can they go there and find someone local to them?
Yeah, they're all over the world. They just started getting into the United States. Right now I'm one of 2 consultants in the United States.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they're kind of new over here. They've been operating for a long time over in Europe and Austria and Germany and Australia. So yeah, now they're pretty new over here. So I'm kind of taking on the west coast of the United States for people when I travel up and down the coast.
Wow.
But we're hoping to grow. You know, they got some trainings coming up and things like that. So I'm hoping to get some more people on board with this so we can help as many people as possible to come up with these solutions, because, you know, it's my feeling that if you don't take care of this stuff, it's going to be really hard to heal all these conditions that people have, especially autoimmune diseases, where the center of so much of that beginning starts in the gut. And if you have a leaky gut every night, you know, it's from all these fields and this radiation, it's going to be really hard to continually heal that. And for me personally, I didn't see any improvement with my leaky guts. No matter how many leaky gut formulas I took, I didn't see any improvements until I started taking care of this type of radiation.
Wow.
And yeah, I think it's that important.
Yeah, and also to heal, we need to be sleeping properly, and, you know, no one is. Really, they aren't. And that's like the biggest complaint I have to deal with. And even, you know, nutritionally speaking, it can be very hard to recoup the sleep, especially if melatonin production is being affected. Let's talk about some strategies, though, to help reduce overall exposure. Like, I think one of the things that we take for granted, this convenience of access to screens and all of this, cell phones, computers, iPads, you know, all of it. You talked about melatonin a little bit. You talk about sleep. Let's just lay a little foundation for people in terms of electronic devices before bed.
Yeah, that's huge. You know, and it's been pretty popular in the last 2 or 3 years, the talk about another part of the electromagnetic spectrum, the light, how light affects melatonin production. So the blue spectrum of light especially, but also the green spectrum, which a lot of people don't talk about, has an effect on suppressing melatonin production at night. So when we are, you know, getting ready for bed, a lot of people are vegging out on TV for a few hours or on the computer trying to get things done before the next day. And, you know, there's a lot of blue light that's entering the retina and causing a disruption in the hypothalamus that's telling the pineal gland that, hey, it's still daytime. So you can keep producing cortisol, and that production of cortisol produces melatonin, or suppresses melatonin, rather. So, you know, that's a big issue. But the other thing is that being exposed to the Wi-Fi and the cordless phones and everything at night, that's also a type of electromagnetic radiation. The body kind of confuses for it being light outside. And so, you know, we never had this before in the history of mankind, these types of radiation. And we never had light at night other than fire that was what color? Orange, yellow, you know? So it was blue, and that the blue, or the, you know, it wasn't blue. So it was orange, and there's no blue light in orange. So that's why we have these orange glasses, these blue blocking glasses, the red glasses, and everything like that. That blocks out the blue light, and the red glasses help block out both the blue and the green spectrum. So before night, you know, no electronics before like 2 hours before bed, maybe even more. You know, kind of more that, you know, I forget who said it, but it was in some kind of movie or something where they said, you know, when the sun goes down, you go down.
Right. Yep, that's what I always tell my clients. We go to bed with the sun and we rise with it. That's just how our bodies are, work, right?
Well, and you think about, I always tell my clients, think about the last time you went camping. I'm not talking about in an RV. I'm talking about like tent camping,
Right, right.
What time do you normally go to bed when you go camping? And they're like, oh, man, I always go to bed really early, And, well, that's because you're going down with the sun like the human race used to for thousands and thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so, we just have to get more in touch with the primalness of what it's like to live on Earth as a human being. And we can still enjoy modern technology, but we also have to be smart about it,
Right.
I think there's a huge balance there, and you can still live joyfully and happy and in a good life and stay connected. But just take these few steps, especially at nighttime. Change your routine a little bit. Try to respect yourself as a human being and where you came from and how you were designed or whatever your belief is on that. Just try to respect yourself for who you are and respect the human race that, like, hey, this is what we do as humans. We go to bed when it gets dark, and these technologies are great, but, we kind of need to also respect who we are as a human race. And also, the other part of this is that a lot of what we're doing is affecting animal life as well. So that's a whole different topic, maybe a whole other podcast.
I'm sure we could go on and on about this. Yeah, I like that, wrapping it up with, especially the sleep and the bedroom environment, because honestly, no one can heal if they're sleeping poorly. If you're really trying to recover from any kind of illness, and let's face it, most of us have some form of health issue today. We just all do, whether it's just general fatigue and poor immunity and that kind of thing. We all have it. So taking some steps towards improving your sleep with this step, if you haven't even thought about it, is a really great idea. And I know I have some work to do myself. So I was really looking forward to this podcast for my own benefit as well. So it's good stuff, and it's good work you're doing. So to wrap it up, you have a gift for our listeners?
Yeah, I've got a little ebook about electromagnetic radiation and nutrition that I'm putting together for you guys, and that's going to be up on my website, primalhealingrhythms.com. And I think I'll have a link especially to the gift, for a special link for you guys. But it's just a little, something that I wrote that talks about like ways that you can use nutrition to help mitigate some of the effects of the EMFs. You still need to do the shielding and everything, but there's ways that you can help protect yourself with nutrition to help mitigate some of the effects and support the body when you are exposed to these types of radiation.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that.
And you want to talk a little bit about what you do and your services real quick, in case anyone is on the West Coast and might be able to work with you?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I come to people's houses and I measure their bedrooms for electric fields and high-frequency radiation from cell phone towers and everything, and kind of come up with a step-by-step plan to take care of it once and for all so you don't have to worry about this big issue anymore. And then I also am starting this thing where I'm putting together a package for practitioners so that they can have an office where they do their healing work that is free of all these types of radiation.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. And then there's one other type of radiation that we didn't talk about that's a huge issue that I just can touch on really briefly here as we wrap up, and that's there's this thing called geopathic stress from the Earth. And this comes from the Earth's grid line, and there's all these crossing points. And in Europe, they've been known for several hundred years as cancer crossings, and they've been correlated with cancer and different types of conditions and everything. So that's another thing that I evaluate for when I'm at someone's house, and it's a pretty significant issue as well. But yeah, I'm free to go up and down the West Coast here and do consults and when I'm traveling. And pretty soon we're going to have our tiny house built and everything, and that'll be good too. So I don't know where we'll end up, but it's probably going to be on the West Coast here. So
very cool. Well, let me know when you make your way over to the East Coast, and I'll definitely hire you.
Sounds good.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I'm really impressed by this whole piece of our health puzzle that you're taking under your wing, and I think it's really going to be important. And I hope more people will do it as well. But anyway, I appreciate your time today and sharing this. It's been really cool, and give us a few resources to share with people so they can do a little deeper digging on this topic as well.
Yes.
Yeah,
I need to go EMF-proof my bedroom now.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for this information to get out there to more people. I think it's really one of the huge pieces of the puzzle that so many people are missing, and I just kind of breaks my heart to see that it's not being put out there as much, and people are, it's so hard to just tackle it because people get overwhelmed. But I think, I'm so happy that I found Geovital because they really helped me to kind of succinct everything into a package so that you don't have to worry about it anymore. And so I'm really excited to be doing what I'm doing and excited to share it with people.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Thank you for your time today and for sharing all of this information. Hopefully we didn't overwhelm our listeners too much. I think for me, probably the biggest thing is just remembering to unplug stuff and to unplug the Wi-Fi at night. That's one thing that I always forget to do. So I'm going to start with that.
Sounds good.
Yeah. How do you get your kids on board with that, like your older kids who know how to turn it back on?
Well, you just have to talk to them about it, causing acne and things like that. I can, just send it.
Messing up their sperm. I guess they don't care about that yet.
Yeah.
I have all boys, so, I'm like, what angle could I take? Yeah, no, it's definitely, that's probably a big piece of it, is getting the whole family on board too. So I'm sure there's got to be an approach to educating the family.
Well, and that's why part of it is trying to, the Geovital has done is trying to make it so as least invasive as possible to how people are currently living. And, there are some things that you do have to sacrifice, like not spending as much time on your phone and turning off your Wi-Fi at night or hardwiring things, but it's worth it. Your health is totally worth it. We make so many more sacrifices in other areas, by not eating certain things and, changing our schedule, going on these huge nutritional protocols, or, people that aren't in this paradigm, they're doing things that are taking a bunch of pills and feeling horrible still, so if you can do something sacrifice something that's going to make you feel a little bit better and possibly be the last piece to the puzzle that you're missing that's really going to make an improvement. I guess it's up to the person to really, tell you if it's worth it or not. But for me, it's totally been worth it, and for a lot of my clients, it's huge. So
cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited for the push for myself. So thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you so much for listening to the Vibrant Health Podcast. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day to listen to the information we're sharing. If this information resonated with you and you know others who could benefit from it, we would love it if you'd share it with them. We'd also be very appreciative if you could leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. If you're on our sites or YouTube listening to this, we'll have links down below where you can leave a review. If you're on your phone listening through the app, you can also leave a review directly through the app. It only takes about a minute, super fast, super easy, and your shares and reviews help us reach more people with our message of health and wellness, so we really, really appreciate your support. If you're looking for more information on health and wellness in general, both Lydia and I have a ton of information on our sites. You can find me over at jessicaespinoza.com, which is my main practice website and where I offer my 21-day sugar detox coaching, and in the future I'm going to be offering nutritional therapy coaching as well. You can also find me on deliciousobsessions.com, which is my main real food and natural living website. You can find Lydia over at divinehealthfromtheinsideout.com, where she offers nutritional therapy consultations and hair tissue mineral analysis services for those who are ready to take their health to the next level. Lastly, if you have any suggestions for topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, we would absolutely love to hear from you. We want these podcasts to be as informational and inspirational as possible, and we'd love to hear from you and understand exactly what you would like us to cover. You can email us or leave a comment below, or even give us a shout out on social media. We both look forward to serving you and inspiring you to live the healthiest, happiest lives possible. Thanks for listening.